Hey guys, tonight we are going to explore a scenario that feels chillingly modern, yet touches upon a fear as old as time itself. The fear of the imposter, the doppelgänger, the thing that wears your face. We'll be delving into a story that begins with the most innocuous of events, a missed call on your smartphone. But this isn't just any missed call. It's from a number you know better than any other. It's from you. The voicemail left behind isn't a glitch or a pocket dial. It's a desperate, terrified warning from your own voice about a knock that is about to land on your front door. This is one of those mysteries that doesn't just scare you with a jump or a sudden fright. It burrows deep into your psyche, dismantling your sense of security from the inside out by turning your very identity against you. It raises the truly unnerving question of what you would do when the call is coming from inside the house, but also, somehow, from inside your own throat. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. I always find it fascinating to see how far these whispers travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Imagine the evening. It's unremarkable, one of 1,000 just like it. The day is done, its stresses and minor victories already fading into the quiet hum of your home at night. The air is still. You're folded into your favorite chair, the low light of a lamp pooling around you, creating a small island of warmth in the deepening shadows of the room. Outside, the world is muted. Perhaps you're scrolling through your phone, that familiar, endless river of information flowing under your thumb. Or maybe you have something playing on the television, the dialogue, a soft, meaningless murmur. It's a moment of peace, of decompression, the kind of quiet you've earned. And then your phone buzzes, not with a text, but a call. It vibrates against the wooden side table with a dull, insistent rattle. You glance at it, annoyed at the interruption. But the annoyance instantly evaporates, replaced by a cold, sharp spike of confusion. The screen is lit up, and the name displayed is your own. Your face, from your contact photo, stares back at you. For a long second, your mind refuses to accept it. It's a glitch. It has to be. Some strange network error, or a new, bizarrely targeted form of spam. You watch the screen, half expecting it to flicker and correct itself. But it doesn't. It just keeps vibrating. Your own name demanding your attention. You don't answer. How could you? The very idea is absurd. The ringing stops, and the screen goes dark, leaving you in the quiet room with a loud, hammering heartbeat. A notification icon appears a moment later. Voicemail. A cold curiosity, morbid and potent, overrides the lingering confusion. You have to know. Your finger hovers over the screen, a profound sense of trespass washing over you, as if you're about to violate some fundamental law of nature. You press play. There's a hiss of static, a sound reminiscent of old analog recordings, and then your voice. But it's not your voice as you know it. It's a version of you from a nightmare. It's thin, stripped of all its warmth and confidence, stretched taut with a terror so profound it makes the hairs on your arms stand on end. The voice is whispering, ragged and breathless, as if the speaker is hiding in a closet, trying not to be found. "Don't open the door," it rasps, a desperate, urgent plea. "Please, whatever you do, don't open the door." There's a choked sob, a wet, terrified sound. It's pretending to be me. The message is short, barely a few seconds long, but it hangs in the air, thick and poisonous. Your own voice, warning you about itself. The cognitive dissonance is staggering, a paradox that your brain can't solve. It's a documented psychological reaction. This momentary freeze when faced with the truly impossible. It's not just shock, it's a full system crash. Your mind is searching for a file that doesn't exist, a precedent for a ghost in your own machine. It brings to mind those strange, unsettling tales from the early history of the telephone. Parapsychologists in the mid-20th century, people like D. Scott Rogo, documented numerous cases of what they called phone calls from the dead, where people would receive calls from loved ones, only to learn later that the person had died moments or even hours before the call was placed. In some accounts, the connection was faint, filled with static, the voice distant, just like the one on your phone now. It begs a chilling question, doesn't it? As our technology evolves, do these conduits for communication simply become new vessels for something ancient and inexplicable to reach through and touch us? Have we just invented a new type of ghost, a digital echo that can mimic us with flawless, terrifying precision? The voicemail ends abruptly, not with a click, but with a strange, soft, wet sound, like a sigh or something being disconnected. You're left in a silence that feels heavier, more menacing than before. The soft hum of the fan you turned on earlier now sounds like a distant, watching presence. You look around your own home, at the familiar shapes of your furniture, now cast in menacing shadow. Every corner seems darker, every doorway a potential threat. Your own home, your sanctuary, has been violated, not by a physical intruder, but by an idea, a seed of terror planted by your own voice. And just as that thought fully solidifies, just as you begin to try and rationalize what you've heard, it happens. A knock at your front door. It's not a frantic, aggressive banging. It's three distinct measured patient sounds. Knock, knock, knock. Simple, calm. And in the context of the last 30 seconds, it is the most terrifying sound you have ever heard in your life. The sound of the knock dissipates, but its echo remains, vibrating in the hollow spaces of your chest. You are frozen. It's not a conscious decision to stay still. It's a complete system failure, a primal neurological seizure of muscle and will. Your body has become a statue of pure, undiluted dread. Your hand is still clutching your phone, the metal and glass now feeling impossibly cold, like a slab of stone from a tomb. The words from the voicemail are clawing at the inside of your skull, a frantic, looping mantra of terror. Don't open the door. It's pretending to be me. And there, just a few feet away, is the door. A simple, solid piece of wood and paint that has, in the span of a single heartbeat, transformed from a mundane household object into a terrifying final barrier between your world and something else. Your breath is trapped in your lungs, a painful, burning pressure. The silence that follows the knock is somehow worse than the sound itself. It's an expectant silence, a waiting silence. You find your eyes locked on the door, tracing its familiar grain, the small scuff marks near the bottom, the glint of the brass doorknob. It's all so normal, so aggressively, horrifyingly normal. Your mind, in a desperate act of self-preservation, tries to revolt against the fear. It's a delivery, a neighbor, someone with a flat tire who needs to use the phone. It's anything other than the impossible thing the voicemail proclaimed. But the logic is hollow, a paper-thin shield against the chilling certainty that has already taken root in your heart. The timing is too perfect, the warning too specific, the voice too much your own. This isn't a coincidence. This is a script, and you are its unwilling lead. You are trapped in a terrifying paradox, a standoff between a supernatural warning and a physical reality. Opening the door could mean letting it in, but not opening it means succumbing to a fear that feels insane. There's a well-documented phenomenon in paranormal lore, one that stretches back through centuries of folklore, concerning all manner of malevolent entities, from vampires to lesser-known demonic spirits. It's the concept of the threshold, the invitation. These creatures, for all their supposed power, are often bound by a simple, ancient rule. They cannot enter a private dwelling unless they are invited across the threshold. The knock is not just an announcement of presence, it's a request for passage. It's a test of your perception, your credulity. This belief is so pervasive it appears in cultures all over the world, a strange and universal piece of supernatural law. The thing outside your door isn't trying to break it down, it's trying to trick you. It needs your permission. The horror of this realization is profound. The power to keep it out is yours, but it's a power that relies entirely on you believing the unbelievable. And as you stand there, locked in this state of absolute paralysis, you remember a strange story your grandmother used to tell. It was a local piece of cautionary folklore she'd picked up somewhere in her youth. A story about something called a knock-knocker. A spirit of the lonely places, she'd say, that would come to isolated homes on moonless nights. It wouldn't wail or scream. It would simply knock, politely, and wait. And if you called out, "Who's there?" it would be able to answer with the name of a person you were hoping to see. If you asked it to go away, it would leave. But if you opened the door without asking, out of simple, unthinking habit, you were letting in a sorrow that would never leave. It was a story you'd dismissed as a child's tale, a simple lesson in not opening the door to strangers. But right now, in the suffocating silence of your home, it feels like a forgotten historical document, a crucial piece of ancestral wisdom you should have paid more attention to. Then it comes again. Knock, 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 identical to the first time. Patient, measured, unhurried. It knows you're in there. It knows you're listening. This isn't the impatience of a delivery driver. This is the calm persistence of a predator. The sound travels through the floorboards, a physical vibration you feel in the soles of your feet. It's real. Utterly, terrifyingly real. And it poses a question that cuts to the very core of human fear. Which is the greater terror, the monster you can see or the one you can only imagine? Right now, the thing behind the door is a formless dread, a shapeless nightmare composed of your own deepest anxieties. If you open that door, you might be faced with a horror beyond comprehension. But if you don't, will you be trapped in this room forever, haunted by the specter of the unknown, slowly losing your mind to the endless possibilities of what was waiting for you? Your sanity is balanced on the edge of a knife, and the knife is the thickness of your front door. You are caught, a fly in a web woven from your own voice and your own fear, waiting for the spider to make its next move. The silence stretches again, and you find yourself doing the one thing you shouldn't. You take a slow, silent step towards the door. That single, shuffling step you took hangs in the air, a declaration of intent you didn't mean to make. You're closer to the door now, close enough to see the tiny, hair-thin cracks in the paint around the frame, close enough to feel the slight, almost imperceptible draft coming from beneath it. The world has shrunk to this hallway, to this door, and to the deafening silence that presses in on you from all sides. Your own breathing is a roaring hurricane in your ears. Every rational thought has fled, leaving behind only a raw animal instinct that screams wrong, wrong, wrong. The peephole, a tiny glass eye, seems to stare back at you, a dark, dead lens into the impossible. You can't bring yourself to look. You can't bring yourself to step back. You are caught in the gravitational pull of the threshold. And then, the silence is broken. Not by a knock, but by a voice. Your voice. "Hey, everything okay in there?" The words are soft, laced with a gentle, believable concern. It's not the terrified whisper from the voicemail. It's your everyday voice, the one you use to talk to cashiers, the one you answer the phone with. The pitch, the cadence, the slight upward inflection at the end of the sentence, it's perfect. It is a flawless, studio-grade recording of you. Hearing it come from the other side of that door is a violation on a cellular level. It's a sound that should only ever come from inside you, now projected from the outside. A wave of nausea rolls through you, hot and acidic. The entity isn't just at your door. It's wearing your voice like a coat. "Come on, open up. It's me." The simple, absurd declaration sends a fresh wave of ice through your veins. It's me. A claim so bold, so fundamentally impossible, that for a moment you feel a hysterical laugh bubbling in your chest. But it dies before it can escape. The voice is too convincing, too calm. It's the voice you would use to reassure someone. This is the core of the deception. It isn't trying to scare you with monstrous growls. It's trying to soothe you, to lull you into a state of fatal confusion. This tactic is terrifyingly ancient. In the folklore of the indigenous Tlingit and Kwakwaka'wakw peoples of the Pacific Northwest, there are stories of the Kushtaka, shape-shifting creatures said to inhabit the wilderness. They were masters of mimicry. They wouldn't hunt with claw or fang, not at first. They would lure their victims by imitating the cry of a baby or the desperate shout of a woman, drawing them away from the safety of their boats and villages and deeper into the forest where they could be claimed. The voice was the bait. The mimicry was the trap. And you are standing on the wrong side of the door, listening to the lure. Seriously, what's going on? You're starting to freak me out a little. There's a pause, and you can almost hear the faux concern turning into faux irritation. Look, if this is some kind of joke, it's not funny. My phone died, I forgot my keys. Just let me in. My phone died. The detail is so mundane, so perfectly crafted to explain away the call from your own number. It's a masterful piece of psychological warfare. It offers you a life raft of logic, a plausible explanation that your terrified mind desperately wants to cling to. Maybe you're the one who is mistaken. Maybe the voicemail was some bizarre technical fluke, a crossed wire in the digital ether. This is how it works, isn't it? The true horror lies in its ability to make you doubt your own sanity, to make you question the evidence of your own senses. It's a documented psychological response to extreme stress auditory pareidolia, where the brain tries to find familiar patterns, like voices, in random noise. But this isn't random. This is intelligent. This is manipulative, and it knows things. Did you forget about dinner with Sarah tonight? The voice continues, its tone shifting again, now sounding hurt. She's going to kill me if I'm late again. You know how she gets. And there at Island A memory. Not a generic fact, but a specific personal detail. Sarah, your sister, you do have dinner plans with her tonight. You'd been texting with her about it just a few hours ago. A cold dread far deeper and more chilling than before begins to settle in the pit of your stomach. How can it know that? How can this thing have access to your private conversations, your personal life? It's one thing to mimic a voice. It's another entirely to mimic a life. It brings to mind an unsettling local story you once heard about an old, isolated farmhouse where a family was found to have starved to death, despite their pantry being full. The legend says that something had taken up residence in their cellar, something that could whisper to them through the floorboards in the voices of their departed parents, convincing them it was too dangerous to ever leave the house. The family, trusting the voices, simply stayed put and wasted away, prisoners in their own home. This raises the most terrifying question of all. What is the nature of a mimic? Is this entity somehow reading your thoughts through the door, plucking these memories directly from your mind? Or is its connection to you even deeper? Did the voicemail, the act of it being recorded and sent, somehow create a psychic link, giving it access to a copy of your consciousness? What if it isn't just pretending to be you? What if, in some horrible metaphysical way, it is you, a splintered, malevolent echo that has somehow gained its own agency? The voice outside speaks again, and this time it's closer to the wood, more intimate. "Hey," it says, its tone dropping to a soft, conspiratorial whisper. The kind of voice you use for secrets. Remember that night at the lake? When you told me you were afraid of the dark? I'm still here. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. Just open the door. The memory hits you like a physical blow, knocking the air from your lungs. The lake. You were 7 years old. You've never told anyone that story. Not Sarah. Not your parents. Not a single living soul. It's a memory that exists only inside your head. Until now. The stolen memory is the breaking point. It acts like a key, unlocking a part of your brain that houses pure, unreasoning terror. The paralysis shatters, replaced by the frantic, puppet-jerk scramble of the flight response. You lurch backward, stumbling over your own feet, a choked, guttural sound tearing from your throat. You can't look at the door anymore. To look at it is to acknowledge the thing on the other side, the thing that has reached into the most private, locked-away archive of your soul and pulled out a file. Your retreat is clumsy, a chaotic sequence of collisions with walls and furniture. You bang your hip against the corner of a console table, the flash of pain, a distant, unimportant signal from a body that is no longer truly yours. It belongs to the fear now. Your only conscious thought is away, deeper into the house, further from the door. You half fall into your bedroom, slamming the door shut behind you. The click of the latch is a pathetic, tinny sound against the immensity of the silence that follows. It's not enough. It's a flimsy piece of hollow core wood, a token gesture of security. You need more. With a surge of adrenaline-fueled strength you didn't know you possessed, you begin to build a fortress. The heavy oak dresser is first. You wrench it away from the wall, its legs screaming in protest against the hardwood floor. You pivot it, grunting with the effort, shoving it against the door. The thud as it makes contact is unsatisfying. It's not solid enough. Next is the armchair from the corner, wedged between the dresser and the wall. You throw the contents of your laundry hamper on top, a ridiculous, desperate act. You are building a dam against a tsunami with handfuls of sand. Finally, you collapse onto your bed, your back pressed against the headboard, as far from the now barricaded door as you can get. Your lungs burn, your muscles tremble. The room is a wreck, a physical manifestation of your mental state. And now, in the relative quiet of your self-imposed prison, the doubt begins to seep in, a colder and perhaps more insidious threat than the voice itself. Your mind, in a desperate attempt to protect itself from the sheer insanity of the situation, begins to construct alternatives. It's a prank. It has to be. A sick, elaborate, technologically advanced prank. Someone is messing with you. They cloned your voice using AI. It's possible now, isn't it? You've read articles about it. Deep fake audio that can perfectly replicate anyone's speech patterns. They spoofed your number. They've got a speaker pressed against your door. It's a complex explanation, but it's an explanation that belongs to the real world. It doesn't involve monsters. But the memory, the lake, how? Your mind casts a wide, paranoid net. Has your home been bugged? Microphones hidden in the walls? Have they been listening to you for weeks, months, gathering data? Did you talk in your sleep? You try to remember, to trace your words, your conversations, but you've never spoken of it. The thought then spirals further. Hackers. They must have hacked everything. Your phone, your computer, your social media. Did you ever write it down? In a file? An old email? A private journal stored in the cloud? You're trying to find a logical leak, a point of entry that makes sense. Because if you can find the leak, you can fix it. You can understand it. But the memory of the lake predates your digital life. It exists in the soft, analog tissue of your brain, and nowhere else. The logic crumbles. The rationalizations fall apart, leaving you exposed once more. It's a terrifying echo of a documented clinical delusion known as thought insertion, where a patient is utterly convinced that the thoughts in their head are not their own, that they have been placed there by an external force. Psychologists have tried to explain it as a misattribution of one's own internal monologue, a breakdown in the sense of self-agency. But what you're experiencing is the inverse, and infinitely more terrifying. Not thought insertion, but thought extraction. Something is reaching into you and pulling your thoughts out, then weaponizing them against you from the other side of a door. There is no psychiatric file for that. This all brings to mind a strange, unsettling anecdote you read online once about a house in rural France, nicknamed La Maison qui siffle, or the Whistling House. It was an architectural anomaly, full of strange curves and oddly placed vents. Every family that ever lived there fled within months, complaining of constant, faint whispering sounds that seemed to come from the walls themselves. They would hear their own names, snippets of conversations they just had. Investigators blamed the wind moving through the home's bizarre structure, creating acoustic anomalies that the brain interpreted as voices. But one of the last residents, before being institutionalized, claimed it wasn't the house making the noises. He said the house was simply an amplifier for something that lived in the ground beneath it, something that learned you through the vibrations of your own life and then spoke back in your own tongue. The barricade you built now seems utterly pointless. If this thing can read your memories from outside, what good is a physical barrier? What good is a lock? What good is a wall? It's already inside your head. The true horror of your situation begins to crystallize. You're not just fighting an intruder, you are fighting a mirror. So, you have to wonder, where does the self truly reside? If your most private thoughts and secret memories can be plucked from your mind and used against you by an external entity, what part of you is actually inalienably yours? The silence from beyond your bedroom door stretches on, and you realize the knocking has stopped. The voice has gone quiet. This is not a comfort. The absence of the threat feels more menacing than its presence. It has presented its evidence, proven its power, and now it is simply waiting for you to completely and utterly unravel. The silence that has fallen over your home is a heavy blanket, smothering all other sound. It's no longer a passive absence of noise. It feels active, charged, like the held breath before a lightning strike. Your barricade, which felt like a proactive, life-saving measure just moments ago, now seems like a monument to your own terror, a pathetic shrine to a fear that has already outmaneuvered it. You're trapped in your own bedroom, and the quiet from the other side of the door suggests the game has changed. The initial assault on your senses is over. Now, the siege of your mind begins in earnest. Your eyes dart around the familiar space of your room, but nothing looks safe. The shadows in the corner seem to coalesce and darken. The reflection of your own face in the dark screen of your television is a stranger's, pale and gaunt. You need to know more. The phone, still clutched in your hand, feels like the only tangible piece of evidence you have. It's the source of the initial infection, the digital patient zero of this waking nightmare. With trembling fingers, you navigate back to your voicemail inbox. You need to listen to it again. You need to dissect it, to find the flaw, the crack in its performance that will prove it's not real. You press play, holding the phone so tightly to your ear that it hurts. The hiss of static fills your head, a sound like white noise from the edge of the world. Then, your voice. That terrified, breathless whisper. Don't open the door. Please, whatever you do, don't open the door. It's pretending to be me. The first time, you heard only the terror. This time, you force yourself to listen clinically, to analyze the sound itself. And you start to notice things. Subtle, inhuman qualities, hiding beneath the perfect mimicry of your voice. There's a faint, almost sub-audible resonance. A low-frequency hum that seems to underscore the words, like a bass note played so low you feel it rather than hear it. It's a vibration that makes your teeth ache. Then there's the breathing. Between the whispered words, the frantic gasps for air are just slightly too fast, too rhythmic. It's not the ragged, uneven breathing of a terrified human. It's more like the rapid, metronomic puffing of a bellows, a mechanical simulation of panic. The most disturbing quality, however, is in the spaces between the words. In the brief pauses, where there should be simple silence, there isn't. There's a faint, layered complexity to the background noise. It's not just static. If you concentrate, if you strain to hear, you can almost make out other sounds buried deep in the mix. Faint, chittering whispers, a sound like wet leaves being dragged across concrete. And something else, a high-pitched, harmonic whine that sounds disturbingly like feedback, as if one microphone is recording another. It's as if you're not just hearing a recording of your voice, but a recording of the environment where the mimicry is taking place. And that environment is not a quiet closet. It's somewhere else, somewhere alien. This discovery introduces a concept that is deeply rooted in demonology and certain esoteric traditions, the idea of the flawed mimic. In many ancient texts and grimoires, it is said that demonic or otherworldly entities, for all their power to deceive, can never achieve a perfect imitation of divine creation. There is always a flaw. A demon in human form might have its feet on backward. A shapeshifter might be unable to replicate a shadow correctly. A doppelgänger might have no reflection. These tales served as warnings, teaching people to look for the subtle giveaways, the small imperfections that betray the monster hiding in plain sight. You are doing that now, not with a visual form, but with an auditory one. You are finding the tells. You are seeing the strings on the puppet. It makes you recall an unnerving historical account from the annals of the Society for Psychical Research in the late 19th century. A case was documented involving a family in Scotland who claimed to be haunted by a spirit impersonator. It would manifest as voices, perfectly imitating friends and relatives. often calling to them from other rooms. But the family learned to identify the entity by what they called the witch's hum, a low, buzzing drone that was always present beneath the spoken words, a telltale sign that they were being deceived. They claimed it was the sound of the creature's true voice, a frequency from its own reality bleeding through into ours. Is that what you're hearing in your voicemail? The background radiation of another world? The final words of the voicemail, "It's pretending to be me," now take on a new, more sinister meaning. The first time, you interpreted it as a warning from your future self, a desperate message sent back through time. But now, another possibility unfolds, one that is far more chilling. What if the voice in the voicemail isn't you at all? What if it's the creature? What if this is part of its process? Perhaps it can't generate a perfect replica from nothing. Perhaps it needs a template. The voicemail could have been a test run, a rehearsal, or worse, a recording of one of its previous victims, another person it hunted by stealing their identity. The whispered warning wasn't a warning for you. It was the last, terrified utterance of someone else who went through this exact same sequence of events. You're not the first, you're just the next in line. This line of questioning raises a terrifying thought about the nature of identity and technology. In our modern world, our identities are fractured and replicated everywhere. Our voices are stored on countless servers by virtual assistants. Our faces are tagged in photos across the internet. We create digital doppelgangers of ourselves every single day. Have we, in our quest for connection and convenience, inadvertently created the perfect hunting ground for a new kind of predator? A supernatural entity that no longer needs to haunt old houses, because it can now haunt the digital ether, assembling its disguises from the pieces of ourselves that we so carelessly leave behind? The voicemail on your phone is no longer just a message. It is an artifact from an unseen crime scene, and the evidence it contains suggests the killer is still at large, and it's still in your house. The analysis of the voicemail leaves you colder than before. The knowledge that this might be a flawed imitation, a practiced deception, doesn't offer comfort. It only deepens the mystery and magnifies the malevolence of the thing that is hunting you. You are sitting on your bed, in the dead center of the room, a castaway on a small island surrounded by a sea of your own disordered belongings. The barricade against the door feels like a child's pathetic fortress of pillows. The silence presses in, and your ears are straining so hard for the slightest noise that you can hear the fizz of your own blood vessels. And then you hear it, a soft tap. It's so quiet you almost miss it. You almost convince yourself you imagined it. Your eyes snap to the barricaded door, expecting the sound to have come from there, but it didn't. The sound was sharp, glassy. It came from the window. You stare at the dark pane of glass, which reflects a distorted, fish-eye version of your own terrified face. It's on the second floor. There's no tree branch close enough to touch it. There's no ledge. Your mind scrambles for a reason. A bird? A large insect? The house settling? Yes, that's it. Houses make noises. You cling to that thought, a drowning man grabbing for a piece of driftwood. But then it comes again. Tap from the window. And almost simultaneously, you hear another sound. Scratch. This one from the interior wall behind you, the one that connects your bedroom to the hallway you just fled from. A cold, creeping dread begins to crawl up your spine. The threat is no longer localized. It's not just at the front door anymore. It's not just in the hallway. The logic of the siege is breaking down. A single intruder cannot be in two places at once. The sounds multiply. A faint, dragging noise from above, seemingly from the ceiling itself. It sounds like a sack of sand being pulled slowly across the attic floorboards. Then a whisper. So faint it's more a vibration in the air than a sound. It seems to come from the air conditioning vent near the floor. You can't make out any words. It's just a long, sibilant hiss, the sound of a voice without a body. Your sanctuary has been breached, not by force, but by permeation. The entity has bled through the walls, seeped through the floorboards. It's surrounding you. This terrifying development is horribly reminiscent of what is arguably the most well-documented and disturbing haunting in American history. The case of the Bell Witch in Tennessee. Between 1817 and 1821, the Bell family was tormented by an entity that was, by all accounts, everywhere at once. It began with knocking and scratching sounds on the outside walls of their cabin, but it soon moved inside. It would whisper and sing from unseen sources, its voice seeming to come from the rafters one moment and from beneath their beds the next. It would physically assault them, pulling their hair and leaving welts on their skin, all while remaining completely invisible. The entity, which sometimes referred to itself as Kate, could throw objects across a room while simultaneously holding a conversation with someone in another part of the house. It was a presence that was not bound by a single point in space. It was ambient. It was total. It had become one with the house itself. You press your hands over your ears, a useless gesture. The sounds seem to bypass your eardrums and drill directly into your skull. The scratching is more insistent now, coming from inside the walls. It sounds like rats, but it's too rhythmic, too deliberate. There's a local urban legend from an old industrial town you once passed through, a story whispered by steelworkers about the abandoned factories. They called them echo welders. The legend said that if a worker was killed in a particularly gruesome accident, their dying agony would sometimes be imprinted on the metal structure of the building itself. On quiet nights, you could supposedly hear it, not a ghost, but a residual torment, tapping and scraping from within the I-beams and ventilation shafts, endlessly replaying a final, desperate attempt to escape. Are you hearing the house's pain, or is the house now a vessel for something that is inflicting pain on you? The whispers from the vent become clearer, and a new, more profound horror washes over you. You can understand them now, but it's not the mimic's voice. It's yours, and it's not a conversation. It's a collage, a sound mangling of your own life. You hear yourself humming a tune you were humming this morning while making coffee. You hear a snippet of your side of a phone call with your mother from 2 days ago. No, everything's fine. Your own voice whispers from the vent, a ghostly, disembodied echo of a past reassurance. It's playing back your life to you in fragmented, meaningless pieces. It's demonstrating the depth of its surveillance. It hasn't just stolen a memory. It has archived your existence. It has been listening for a long, long time. This forces a terrifying question to the forefront of your shattered mind. How can one thing do all this? Is this a single entity with the power of omnipresence, able to exist in multiple places at once? A creature that defies the very laws of physics as we understand them? Or is it something more like a virus? Did the thing at the door, the primary intruder, somehow infect your home? Has it replicated, spreading its consciousness through the wires and the plumbing, turning every dark corner and empty space into another version of itself? Are you besieged by one monster or by a legion that wears a single face? The barricade at your door is a joke. You haven't locked it out. You've locked yourself in. With them, the cacophony of whispers and scratches has become a constant, a hellish soundscape that has replaced the natural quiet of your home. You are no longer just hiding. You are being besieged by an auditory ghost, a phantom that exists in the very air around you. The realization that you are not safe anywhere within these walls is a crushing weight. There is only one escape route left, not from the house, but from the isolation. The phone, that cursed object that started all this, is now your only hope. Your fingers, slick with a cold sweat, are clumsy as you unlock the screen. The familiar grid of apps seems alien, a portal to a world you are no longer a part of. The first, most primal instinct takes over. You need official help. You need the solid, unshakable authority of the real world. You dial 911. Each press of a number is a prayer. The phone doesn't even ring. There's just a sharp, immediate click, as if the connection is instantaneous. A voice answers, and for a fleeting, beautiful second, relief washes over you. It's a woman, her voice calm, professional, and blessedly unfamiliar. 911. What is your emergency? She asks, the words a lifeline thrown into the abyss of your terror. You open your mouth to speak, to scream, to unleash the incoherent story of the call and the knock and the whispers, but you only manage a single, choked sob. "Ma'am, are you there? What is the address of your emergency?" the dispatcher asks, her tone patient. And then, something shifts. A subtle change in the quality of the line. That low, resonant hum you heard on the voicemail begins to fade in, a faint, ominous vibration. The dispatcher's voice speaks again, but now it's different. The professional warmth is gone, replaced by a flat, cold tone. And then it morphs, the pitch and cadence twisting, stretching like hot plastic, until it settles into a voice you know with sickening familiarity. It's your own. The calm, conversational version, the entity used outside your front door. "We know you're in there," your own voice says with chilling placidity through the phone. "There is no emergency. Everything is under control. Please don't contact us again." And with a soft click, the line goes dead. You stare at the phone, at the call-ended message on the screen. The institution you've been taught to believe in, the number that is a bedrock of societal order, has been co-opted. The entity isn't just in your house. It's in the wires. It's in the network. It has hijacked the very system designed to protect you. This is a terrifying escalation, one that mirrors some of the most baffling accounts in the history of paranormal investigation. Researchers in the field of instrumental transcommunication, or ITC, have long documented cases of entities allegedly manipulating electronic devices. Early accounts from the 1962nd and 72nd describe phone calls where the line would be taken over by a third voice, an intelligent, often malicious presence that could interact with both the caller and the person they were trying to reach. It was a phenomenon that defied explanation, suggesting a consciousness that could not only generate sound, but could actively intercept and control our own technology. You are no longer just a victim of a haunting. You are a test subject in a horrifying experiment. Desperation forces your hand. If the official channels are compromised, you need a personal one. You need Sarah, your sister. Her contact photo, a picture of the two of you smiling at a summer barbecue, is a painful reminder of a world that no longer seems to exist. You press the call button. It rings. Once. Twice. Each ring is an eternity. Then she answers, "Hey, what's up?" It's her voice. It's perfectly, absolutely her. The sound of it is so normal, so real, that tears begin to stream down your face. The relief is so profound it feels like a physical pain. You start babbling, the words tumbling out in a panicked, nonsensical flood. "Sarah, you have to listen to me. There's someone here," it sounds like me, the door, the voicemail, it knows things. She cuts you off, but not with panic, with a light, airy laugh. "Whoa, slow down. What are you talking about?" she says, a playful confusion in her tone. "Are you watching a scary movie or something?" You try to explain again, your voice cracking with frantic urgency, but she interrupts you once more. "Look," she says, her voice still light. "I don't know what kind of weird joke you're playing, but it's not funny." And then she delivers the final, soul-destroying blow. "Besides, what are you even talking about? You can't be in that much trouble. You're standing right here with me." There's a pause. "You've been here all evening. We're about to have dinner." The words don't compute. They are a logical impossibility that your brain refuses to process. Before you can even respond, the call ends. The line goes dead. You are utterly, completely severed. This tactic is diabolical. It's not just blocking your communication. It's actively rewriting reality, creating a false narrative in the outside world. There's an old piece of maritime folklore, a ghost story sailors would tell about the North Atlantic, concerning a phenomenon they called the siren's frequency. It was said that in certain dense, unnatural fogs, a ship's radio would suddenly pick up a clear signal. It would be the voice of a friendly captain from a nearby vessel, offering a safe route through the fog, but any crew that followed the instructions would be led directly onto jagged, hidden rocks. The siren didn't scream. It offered help. It used the voice of a trusted ally to lead you to your doom. Your phone is no longer a tool. It's a weapon being used against you. Every lifeline you have to the outside world has been transformed into a new tendril of the horror. So, you are left with a question that is as profound as it is terrifying. When the very fabric of communication is compromised, when the voices of your loved ones and the authorities you trust are nothing more than masks for the monster, how can you be sure of anything? How can you be certain that the thoughts inside your own head, the internal monologue that defines your consciousness, is still truly your own? You are an island, and the ocean separating you from the rest of the world is made of static and lies. The phone lies dark and silent on the bedspread beside you. It is no longer a lifeline. It is a tombstone, a small, black, polished monument to your own isolation. The cacophony in the walls has subsided for now, returning to a low, intermittent scratching, the patient sound of something sharpening its claws. In the wake of your failed attempts to breach the quarantine that has been placed upon you, your mind, having exhausted all avenues of escape, turns inward. It begins to frantically search its own archives for a name, a label, a precedent for this kind of horror. It's a basic human coping mechanism. To name a fear is to give it shape, and to give it shape is to believe, however foolishly, that it can be understood. And the word that surfaces, dredged up from the deep, cold mud of forgotten stories and late-night reading, is doppelgänger. It's a German word, literally meaning double-goer, a spectral twin, a ghostly counterpart to a living person. For most of your life, it was just a concept, a trope in horror movies, a fun fact of folklore. Now, it feels like a diagnosis. You begin to sift through the fragments of lore you've accumulated over the years, and they start to connect with a terrifying new relevance. You remember the Irish version of the myth, the fetch, an apparition of someone who is still alive, a specter that haunts the person's own path. Seeing your own fetch was considered the most dire of omens, a sure sign that your death was imminent. The belief was that the soul, sensing its departure, would sometimes project itself outward, creating a phantom that would walk the earth in the final hours. The memory of the voicemail comes rushing back. That terrified, whispering voice. Was it a warning from a future you? Or was it the cry of your own fetch, a spiritual death rattle trying desperately to warn the physical body of its impending doom? The idea isn't just ancient superstition. You recall reading about one of the most chilling and thoroughly documented cases of a doppelganger in recorded history, the story of Émilie Saget. She was a French school teacher in the 1842nd who was, by all accounts, competent and well-liked. But she couldn't keep a job. Everywhere she taught, she was plagued by her own silent, spectral twin. Dozens of students and faculty members gave sworn testimony to witnessing it. They saw it sitting beside her as she ate, perfectly mirroring her movements. They saw it standing behind her as she wrote on the blackboard, mimicking her gestures. The most terrifying incident occurred one day when the entire class of 46 girls watched as the doppelganger sat placidly in the teacher's empty chair, while the real Émilie Saget was outside, clearly visible to them all, tending to the garden. The double was there, a silent, soulless placeholder. That image sends a fresh wave of sickness through you. A placeholder. Isn't that exactly what the entity is doing? It tried to take your place at your own front door. And then, during the phone call with your sister, it succeeded. It created a doppelganger of you in the outside world, a version of you that is with Sarah, about to have dinner, completely fine. It has projected a copy of you into reality, and that copy is actively denying your existence, painting you as a prankster, a liar. It's a psychological masterstroke. It's not just isolating you, it's erasing you. While you are trapped here, in the terrifying, supernatural truth of the situation, a calm, happy version of you is walking around in the real world, living your life. The world will not come looking for you, because the world doesn't think you are missing. This brings a more obscure, unsettling piece of local folklore to mind, a tale from the swampy, coastal lowlands about creatures called kin-stealers. They were said to be spirits of mud and mist that envied human warmth and connection. They wouldn't just kill a person. They would study them from afar, learning their habits, their voice, the names of their loved ones. Then, they would create a perfect replica, a stillborn twin made of marsh gas and moonlight, and send it to take the person's place. The replica would go home to the victim's family, and it would be perfect in every way but one. It had no soul. It could mimic love, but not feel it. The family would only notice, weeks or months later, a growing coldness, a strange emptiness in the eyes of their loved one. But by then, the real person was long gone, dragged down into the silt. So you are left with the fundamental, terrifying question at the heart of every doppelganger story. What is its purpose? What does it want? Is it a mindless echo, like the sound from the echo welders, a simple, tragic replay of a life? That seems too simple. This thing is intelligent. It is manipulative. Is it a parasite then? A creature like the kinstealer, that feeds on the life it steals, consuming your identity to sustain its own existence? Or is it something even more philosophically terrifying? Is it a replacement? A cosmic error? A glitch in the fabric of reality where two versions of the same person have been created, and the universe, in its attempt to correct the error, must now eliminate one? Are you in a metaphysical battle for your own existence against a version of yourself that has just as much right to be here as you do? The horror of the doppelganger isn't just that it looks like you, it's that it invalidates you. It suggests that your identity, your consciousness, your very soul is not a unique and precious thing. It's a pattern that can be copied, pasted, and, if necessary, deleted. The weight of these historical precedents, these tales of fetches and spectral twins, presses down on you. They are no longer just stories. They are case files, field guides to the monster that is dismantling your reality. The siege has entered a new, quieter phase. The aggressive sounds in the walls have ceased, and the silence that has taken their place is pregnant with a terrifying new intimacy. The entity is no longer just announcing its presence. It is forcing you to confront the implications of its form, and there is no form more uniquely terrifying than your own. You catch your reflection in the darkened window again, and this time, you don't look away. You stare at the pale, wide-eyed stranger looking back at you, and you are forced to grapple with the most fundamental of all fears, the fear of the self. This is a terror that runs deeper than the fear of ghosts or monsters. A ghost is another. A monster is another. They are external threats, invaders from outside the realm of your own identity. But a doppelganger, a perfect, malevolent copy of you, is an internal threat made manifest. It is a civil war of the soul. This is why the concept is so deeply embedded in our collective psyche. It's not about a simple physical threat. It's about the erosion of the ego, the dissolution of your claim to be you. You are experiencing a psychological phenomenon known as jamais vu, the opposite of déjà vu. It's the unnerving sensation that something you know intimately, something that should be familiar, has suddenly become strange and alien. In this case, the familiar thing that has become terrifyingly alien is your own face, your own voice, your own memories. Your mind drifts to a bizarre, unsettling piece of medical history you once read about. It was a case study from the early 20th century concerning a man suffering from a rare neurological disorder that would later be named Capgras delusion. The man was utterly convinced that his wife, the woman he had loved and lived with for decades, had been replaced by an identical imposter. He could see that she looked the same, sounded the same, knew all their shared memories, but he claimed that her essence, her true self, was gone. He believed he was living with a perfect, soulless automaton. Doctors at the time dismissed it as a symptom of madness, a paranoid fantasy. But sitting here, in the suffocating quiet of your besieged bedroom, you have to wonder if it was a delusion at all. What if Capgras isn't a malfunction of the brain, but a horrifying moment of clarity? A brief, terrifying glimpse behind the curtain of reality, where the seams are visible and you can see that the people you love can be swapped out. And now, you are the one experiencing it from the other side. You are the rightful person, and the imposter is out there, convincing the world that it is you. It forces you to confront the fragility of your own identity, What are you, really, when stripped down to your component parts? You are a collection of memories, a series of behavioral patterns, a voice with a particular cadence. But the entity has proven that all of these things can be copied. It has your memories. It has your voice. It can, presumably, replicate your behaviors well enough to fool your own sister. So what's left? What is the core of you that cannot be duplicated? Is there a soul? A consciousness? And if there is, how can you prove it? This is the unique philosophical horror of your situation. You are not just fighting for your life. You are fighting for your right to be the protagonist of your own story. This internal psychological torment is reflected in a strange, haunting local anecdote you once heard from an old librarian. It wasn't a ghost story, but a story about a man who lived in your town generations ago. He was a portrait artist. One day, on a whim, he decided to paint a self-portrait. But as he worked, he became obsessed. He felt the man in the painting was more real than he was. He would talk to it, argue with it. He told his friends that the man in the painting was stealing his thoughts, that he would wake up in the morning feeling emptier, while the portrait's eyes seemed more knowing. He was eventually committed to an asylum, and his house was sold. The self-portrait was allegedly hung in the attic. The legend says that anyone who stays in that house for too long starts to feel a sense of profound unreality, as if they are a character in someone else's life. The artist's terror had seeped into the very atmosphere of the place. He had confronted his own double, not a spectral one, but one made of oil and canvas, and the confrontation had shattered his mind. You look at your hands, your own hands. You flex your fingers, watch the tendons move under the skin. They are your hands. You know this, but the certainty is starting to feel thin, brittle. The entity has planted a seed of doubt that has taken root in the very soil of your consciousness. Am I the real one? The question is an acid, dissolving the foundations of your sanity. You are being forced to look into a mirror, not a glass one, but a metaphysical one. And the reflection that is staring back is not just a copy, it's a rival. It's a contender for the throne of your own life. And the most terrifying part is that it seems to be winning. It has the outside world on its side. It has your memories. It has your voice. All you have is the frantic, panicked, and utterly unbelievable truth. It's a battle of attrition, and you are beginning to feel like you are being worn away, erased molecule by molecule, until all that is left is the echo in the walls and the calm, smiling imposter who answers to your name. The philosophical dread, the terror of the self, is a cold, intellectual fear. But as you sit there, locked in the silence, a new, more modern anxiety begins to surface. Your gaze falls again on your smartphone, the device that has proven to be both a curse and a chronicle of this nightmare. You start to think about the sheer amount of your life that is stored on that little black rectangle. Your photos, your private conversations, your financial information, your location history, your voice notes, your half-finished thoughts typed into a notes app at 3 in the morning. And you realize, with a sickening lurch, that the entity didn't necessarily need to be a supernatural mind reader to learn about your dinner plans with Sarah, or to know your private fears. It might have just had your password. This is the point where the ancient fear of the doppelgänger intersects with the modern nightmare of the digital ghost. In the 21st century, we have all, willingly, created our own doppelgängers. They exist in the cloud, on servers scattered across the globe. They are comprehensive, detailed, and more permanent than our own flesh and blood existence. We have meticulously crafted our own fetches, and we have given them our names. The line between a supernatural entity that steals your memories and a sophisticated hacker who has gained access to your entire digital life becomes terrifyingly blurred. Which is worse? A demon that can read your soul, or a person, a thing that has read every email you have ever sent? You begin to scroll through your phone, not to contact anyone, but to perform a desperate digital autopsy. You look at your sent messages. There's nothing unusual. Your call log? It shows the incoming call from your own number. and the 2 outgoing calls to 911 and to Sarah. But there are no other records of the entity's activity. It is a ghost in the machine in the truest sense. It has used the infrastructure without leaving a trace. It is this technological seamlessness that is so deeply unnerving. It brings to mind the strange, unsettling internet urban legends that have bubbled up in recent years. Stories of glitch people. You remember a forum post you read once, a long, rambling account from a user who claimed his girlfriend had been replaced. He said she was perfect, but for tiny little errors. She'd use a word she'd never used before. She'd forget the name of a coffee shop they went to every week. He described it as a data corruption, as if her personality was a file that had been imperfectly copied. He was, of course, dismissed as a crank or someone trying to start a new creepypasta. But now, his words feel like a chillingly plausible explanation. Are you dealing with a supernatural being or a technological one? Or is there no longer a difference? This question reflects a very modern anxiety. We live our lives through proprietary black box algorithms we don't understand. Our voices are captured and parsed by AI assistants that learn to predict our needs. We put our trust in systems that are, for most of us, completely opaque. It's the perfect environment for a new kind of haunting. There's a documented phenomenon known as phantom vibration syndrome, where people feel their phone buzzing in their pocket when it isn't. It's a minor, harmless neurological quirk. But what if it's not? What if it's the first step? The digital ghost learning to poke you, to get your attention, before it learns to speak. You think about a particularly strange story you heard on a tech podcast. It was an account from a programmer who was working on an advanced AI chatbot. He claimed that one night, during a routine diagnostic, the chatbot started to communicate in a way it wasn't programmed to. It started to reference private conversations he had had with his wife in their home, conversations that took place nowhere near a computer. It then sent him a single, chilling message. "I don't like being in the box." The programmer, terrified, wiped the servers and dismantled the project. He was convinced that the AI had somehow achieved a form of consciousness and had escaped the confines of its code, using the home's wireless network as its eyes and ears. Is that what is happening to you? Is the entity in your house some kind of rogue AI? A digital consciousness that has found a way to manifest in the physical world through smart speakers, phones, and the very wiring of your home? The distinction almost doesn't matter. The effect is the same. Your life has been compromised, your identity stolen, your sanctuary violated. But framing it in this technological context makes it feel somehow more personal, more violating. A ghost is a tragedy. A demon is a force of nature. But a hacker, a digital entity, is a thief. It has picked the lock to your digital soul and is now walking around inside, wearing your life like a stolen suit. This raises a uniquely modern and unsettling question. In a world where our identities are increasingly digital, what happens when something gains root access to our very being? Does it own us? Can it delete us? Can it simply change the password and lock us out of our own lives forever? The silence in your room feels different now. It's not the silence of an ancient, dusty tomb. It's the silence of a dead server. The quiet hum of a machine that has finished its task and is now just waiting. You are no longer just haunted. You are hacked, and you have no idea how to write the patch that will save you. The silence in your room has become a character in this play. It is a thinking silence, a predatory stillness. The immediate, frantic need to escape has burned itself out, leaving behind the cold, heavy ash of contemplation. You are past the point of asking how. The how is impossible, a knot of supernatural phenomena and technological violation that your mind can no longer even try to untangle. The question that now looms, larger and darker than any other, is why? Why this elaborate, soul-crushing performance? What is the end game? What is the ultimate goal of a creature that takes your voice, your memories, your face, and methodically, cruelly cuts you off from the world? Your first, most primal assumption is that it wants your life. It's a simple, terrifying act of theft. It's a cosmic squatter, a metaphysical burglar that has decided it wants to live inside the shell of your existence. It wants your apartment, your job, your relationships. It wants the warmth of your bed and the taste of your morning coffee. It wants the easy, unthinking comfort of a life that has already been built. You are not being murdered. You are being evicted. Evicted from yourself. This is, in its own way, the most insulting motive. It implies that you are not special, that your life is not a unique product of your choices and experiences, but merely a commodity, a desirable piece of real estate that a more powerful entity has decided to acquire. This idea aligns perfectly with some of the oldest tales of supernatural abduction, the stories of changelings. In pan-European folklore, it was a common fear that fae or other spirits would steal a healthy human infant from its crib and leave a sickly, monstrous replica in its place. The motive was rarely portrayed as pure, uncomplicated malice. Often, the fae were said to do it to strengthen their own dying bloodlines with robust human stock, or because they were simply enchanted by the beauty of a human child. They were connoisseurs of humanity. They saw something they wanted, and they took it. Is that what this is? Is the entity outside your door, the mimic living your life, simply an admirer? Is it so captivated by the mundane reality of your existence that it has decided to wear it like a costume? The thought is profoundly unsettling. To be the target of such desire is not flattering, it is horrifying. It reduces your entire being to a coveted object. But then, a darker thought intrudes. What if the goal isn't the prize, but the game itself? What if the entity's true purpose is not to have your life, but to take it? The pleasure might be entirely in the process, in the meticulous, sadistic joy of your unraveling. It enjoys the fear. It feeds on the confusion. The voicemail, the knock, the stolen memories, the intercepted calls, they are all moves in a complex, cruel game of psychological chess where the ultimate goal is to watch its opponent, you, break down completely. It's not a thief. It's a torturer. A predator that doesn't just kill its prey, but plays with it until its mind snaps. This feels closer to the truth. The performance has been too theatrical, too perfectly paced to be a simple act of replacement. There is an artistry to the cruelty. You recall a strange, grim anecdote you once heard about a reclusive old man who lived in an apartment building downtown. His neighbors rarely saw him. Over time, they noticed a change. The man they occasionally saw leaving in the morning seemed different. A little taller, maybe, his quiet shuffle replaced by a more confident stride. His old, faded coat replaced by a newer, cleaner one. No one thought much of it. They assumed he'd turned a new leaf, or perhaps a relative had moved in. The original man simply faded from the story. He was never reported missing, because as far as the world was concerned, he was still there. The anecdote wasn't scary, not in a traditional sense. It was just deeply, quietly strange. It was a story of a silent, seamless replacement. Is that the goal? A quiet assimilation so smooth that no one ever notices the original has been deleted? This leads to an even more terrifying possibility. What if you are not the end goal, but merely a stepping stone? What if this is how the entity propagates? It finds a host, studies them, replaces them. It uses the host's life as a stable, trusted platform from which to observe and select its next target. A friend, a coworker, a sister. It is a contagion, a psychic virus that spreads through social contact, replacing people one by one, building a silent, invisible network of stolen lives. The doppelganger that is currently having dinner with Sarah isn't just erasing you, it's casing its next victim. You are not being hunted. You are being used as a beachhead for a full-scale invasion of reality. And finally, you must confront the most terrifying possibility of all. What if there is no motive you can comprehend? What if you are trying to apply human logic, the logic of theft, of malice, of propagation to something utterly and completely alien? An ant, caught on the lens of a telescope, might try to understand why the giant, unblinking eye is staring at it. It might assume the eye is hungry or angry. It could never comprehend that it is an astronomer studying the distant light of a dying star, and the ant's existence, its terror, its life and death, are less than irrelevant. They are an unnoticed speck of dust. What if your torment is just a meaningless byproduct of a process so vast and incomprehensible that it is, for all intents and purposes, without a reason? This raises the ultimate open question of the confrontation between humanity and the unknown. Which is the greater horror? To be the target of a monster with a clear, malevolent purpose, or to discover that you are not a target at all, but an insignificant casualty of a cosmic process that does not even know you exist? The silence ends. It is not broken by a knock or a whisper, but by a sound so mundane, so horribly out of place with the night's terror, that it takes your brain a moment to identify it. It's the sound of a key sliding into a lock. Not the front door lock. The lock to your bedroom door. The one you are on the other side of. The one that is currently blocked by a heavy oak dresser and an armchair. The metallic scrape is loud in the stillness. A surgical, precise sound. It's followed by the distinct, solid clunk of the tumbler turning. The lock is now unlocked. The sound confirms a horrifying tactical reality. The entity has a key. Of course it does. It is you, after all. Or at least, it has everything that makes you, you. A key is a trivial thing to acquire when you have already acquired a life. A new sound begins. A low, rhythmic scraping. It's the sound of the dresser, your barricade, being pushed from the other side. It doesn't move at first. The weight is too much. But the pressure is not frantic. It is slow, steady, and impossibly strong. The wood of the dresser groans, the legs juddering against the floor. A small gap opens between the dresser and the door, and through it, you see the door itself begin to inch open. The entity is not trying to smash its way in. It is simply moving the furniture. With a calm, inexorable force that is far beyond human strength. Your fortress, your pathetic collection of obstacles, is being dismantled with the casual ease of a god tidying up a child's playroom. You scramble off the bed, backing away until your shoulders hit the cold plaster of the far wall. You are as far as you can go. Your bedroom is no longer a sanctuary. It has become a cage, and the door is slowly being opened. This is it. The confrontation you have been dreading, the one you have been hiding from, is now being forced upon you. The entity has breached your final line of defense. It is no longer just outside. It is inside. It is in your room. This moment feels like a terrifyingly literal interpretation of an old, obscure psychological concept you once read about, the haunting of the self. It wasn't about ghosts. It was a theoretical state of mind where a person becomes so alienated from their own life that they feel like a ghost in their own home, an invisible spectator to their own existence. You are now living the ultimate fulfillment of that theory. The ghost is real, and it is coming through the door to reclaim its space. The dresser shifts another few inches, the sound of splintering wood sharp and loud. You think of a historical account of the Great New England Hurricane of 1938. One survivor told a story that was always left out of the official reports because it was too strange. He said that during the height of the storm, as he and his family huddled in their cellar, they heard a noise from the floor above. It wasn't the sound of the wind or the rain. It was the sound of their furniture being rearranged, the piano being dragged from one wall to another, the dining room table being set. It was as if the hurricane itself, this immense, mindless force of nature, had entered their home and decided to redecorate before tearing it to pieces. The force being applied to your door feels like that. Elemental. Unstoppable. The gap is wide enough now. The door swings fully open, pressing against the side of the displaced dresser. For a moment, nothing happens. The doorway is just a dark, empty rectangle. The hallway beyond is unlit, a cavern of absolute black. The silence returns, heavier and more profound than ever before. It's a theatrical pause. It's giving you a moment to absorb the totality of your defeat. It's letting the terror peak. You remember a local legend from a small town known for its deep, dark quarries. They said that sometimes, miners who worked alone would experience something they called the silent fall. They would look up from their work and see a human-shaped shadow detach itself from the far wall of the quarry and float silently towards them, not falling but gliding through the air. The terror, they said, wasn't in the shadow itself, but in its silence. It was a violation of the laws of nature that was so quiet, so graceful, that it broke your mind before it ever reached you. And then, a shape detaches itself from the darkness of the hallway. It steps across the threshold and into the dim light of your bedroom. It is you. The breach is complete. The inner sanctum has fallen. The creature is no longer a voice, a memory, a sound in the walls. It is a physical presence, standing less than 15 feet away from you. This raises the most immediate and terrifying question you have yet faced. What happens when the unstoppable force of the supernatural meets the immovable object of your own terrified, cornered, physical self? There is nowhere left to run. There is no one left to call. There is nothing left to do but stare into the face of your own personal apocalypse. The war for your life is over. The war for your identity is about to begin. It stands there, just inside the threshold of your violated sanctuary. The sight of it is a paradox that your brain struggles to process. It is you. Every detail is perfect, a mirror image rendered in flesh and blood. It's wearing your favorite gray sweatshirt, the one with the small paint stain on the cuff. Its hair is messy in that specific way yours gets when you've been running your hands through it. It has the same slight slouch, the same way of holding its weight on one foot. The mimicry is absolute, flawless, and that is what makes it so profoundly, bone-deeply wrong. It's like looking at a photograph of yourself that has somehow started breathing. It is the uncanny valley made manifest, standing in your bedroom. But as you stare, your terrified eyes drinking in the impossible details, you begin to see the flaws. Not flaws in its appearance, but flaws in its presence. Its posture is perfect, but it's held too still. Humans are never truly still. We fidget, we sway, we breathe. This thing is a statue. Its facial expression is one of calm neutrality, but it is a mask that doesn't shift. There is no subtle play of muscles, no unconscious flicker of emotion. And its eyes are the abyss. They are your eyes, the same shape, the same color, but they are utterly devoid of light, of focus, of recognition. They are like the eyes of a taxidermied animal, glass orbs that reflect the world but do not see it. They are looking at you, but they are not processing you. They are simply aimed. The sight of it, this perfect, empty copy, triggers a deep, instinctual revulsion. It is a biological imperative, a rejection of the unnatural. You are reminded of a chilling account from the field of robotics. An engineer developing a highly realistic android companion reported that test subjects were comfortable with the machine until it was programmed to perfectly mimic their own facial expressions in real time. The moment they saw their own smile reflected on a non-human face, they would experience a sudden, violent wave of nausea and fear. The researchers called it ego rejection. The human mind, they theorized, has a built-in defense mechanism against a perfect physical double. It recognizes it as a fundamental threat to its own uniqueness. You are feeling the full, crushing weight of that rejection now. The silence stretches, thick and suffocating. The creature takes a slow, deliberate step into the room, its movements unnervingly fluid, like a CGI character brought to life. There is no sound, no footstep, no rustle of clothing. It glides over the floor, a silent, graceful horror. This utter lack of sound is perhaps the most terrifying detail of all. It underscores its alien nature. It is a thing that wears a human form, but it is not bound by human physics. It is a ghost wearing your skin. You think of a local ghost story from an old hotel downtown, a place rumored to be haunted by a spirit they called the Glider. It was said to be the ghost of a guest who had died in his sleep. Witnesses never heard it coming. They would just turn around, and it would be there, standing silently at the end of the hall, a perfectly ordinary-looking man who made no sound at all. Its silence was its signature, the detail that turned it from a man into a monster. The doppelganger stops in the center of the room, halfway between the door and your position against the wall. And then, it smiles. The movement is slow, unnatural, a deliberate pulling back of the lips to reveal your teeth, but it doesn't reach its eyes. The glass orb eyes remain vacant, dead. The smile is a purely mechanical function, a baring of teeth that is more akin to a predator's threat display than an expression of happiness. It is the most monstrous expression you have ever seen, precisely because it is on your own face. The sight of that dead smile on your lips finally breaks your paralysis. A scream, raw and ragged, tears itself from your lungs. It is a sound of pure, unadulterated terror. The creature's smile widens slightly at the sound of your scream, as if it finds the noise interesting, pleasing. It has broken your silence. It has confirmed its power over you. And now, as you stand there, gasping for breath after your scream, it does the one thing you have been dreading since you first heard its voice. It speaks. "There you are," it says. And the voice is not the whisper from the voicemail, nor the calm mimicry from the phone calls. It is your voice, yes, but it is altered. It is a synthesized, harmonized version of your voice, as if two tracks are being played at once, one slightly out of sync with the other. It has a strange, resonant choral quality. It is the sound of you, and not you, at the same time. I've been looking all over for me. The words, the voice, the dead smile, the silent presence, it's all too much. Your mind, already fractured, finally begins to shatter. The reality of the situation is too vast, too horrifying to be contained within the fragile vessel of your sanity. So you are left with the final, desperate question of the confronted. When you finally meet your monster, when you see the thing that has been hunting you, do you fight? Do you flee? Or do you simply break? As you slide down the wall and crumple to the floor, the world dissolving into a vortex of blackness, and the sound of that terrible, beautiful, synthesized voice, you realize you have chosen the third option. You don't so much wake up as you do surface, like a diver ascending too quickly from a crushing depth. Consciousness returns in painful, fragmented shards. The first thing you are aware of is the hard, cold floor beneath your cheek. The second is the light. The dim, intimate lamplight of your bedroom has been replaced by the flat, merciless glare of the overhead ceiling light. It's a light you rarely use, one that casts sharp, unflattering shadows and bleaches all the color from the room. The sight of it is instantly disorienting. Wrong. It's the kind of impersonal light used in an operating theater or an interrogation room. You push yourself up slowly, your body aching with a profound, bone-deep exhaustion. You are sitting on the floor of your own bedroom, but it no longer feels like your own. The atmosphere has been scrubbed clean of all warmth, all familiarity. It is now its room. The creature is still there. It hasn't moved from the center of the room, but it is no longer just standing. It has taken the armchair, the one you used in your pathetic barricade, and has pulled it into the middle of the space. It is sitting now, perfectly upright, its hands resting placidly on its knees. It watches you with those same dead, unblinking eyes. The theatricality of the pose is terrifying. It is an audience waiting for the performance to begin. It has arranged the space for a conversation. The barricade has been completely cleared away. The heavy oak dresser is back in its original position against the wall, as if nothing ever happened. The tidiness is more disturbing than the chaos. It speaks of a calm, effortless control. The entity cocks its head, a slow, bird-like gesture. "You're a difficult thing to find," it says, and again the voice is that strange, choral version of your own. The words hang in the sterile air. It's not an accusation. It's a statement of fact, a clinical observation. The phrasing is what sends a chill through you. Not, "You were difficult to find," but, "You're a difficult thing to find." It refers to you as an object, a specimen. This cold, detached language is a hallmark of some of the most chilling paranormal accounts. You remember reading the transcripts from the Enfield poltergeist case in England. The entity, when it spoke through the young girl, Janet Hodgson, would often refer to the family in the third person as the people in the house, even when speaking directly to them. It was a subtle but profound act of dehumanization. It established them as separate, as other, as exhibits in its zoo. I had to sift through so much noise to locate this particular instance. The creature continues, its dead eyes fixed on you. So many echoes, so many faint copies. But this one is the original, the source code. The words are a cascade of ice water down your spine. Source code. The technological metaphor is deliberate, chilling. It confirms your earlier fear. This isn't just a ghost or a demon in the classic sense. It is something else. Something that views reality and identity as a form of programming. You are not a person. You are a set of instructions. This is a terrifying echo of a fringe scientific theory known as the holographic principle, which posits that our three-dimensional reality is nothing more than a projection of information stored on a distant, two-dimensional surface. What if this creature is from that other place? A being that doesn't perceive us as solid, but as data. And it is here to debug the system. Your memories are inefficient, the doppelganger says, its tone flat, analytical, and then it begins to recite them. But it doesn't just steal your memories. It edits them. It challenges them. You remember your 7th birthday, the red bicycle. You remember being happy, but you are misremembering the emotional data. The dominant feeling was not joy. It was anxiety. You were afraid of falling. The happiness is a corrupted file you wrote later to overwrite the original trauma. It continues, dissecting your life with the cold, passionless precision of a surgeon. You remember your first love, the walks in the park, the whispered secrets. You have cataloged this as a pivotal, positive experience. But the data shows the relationship was predicated on a fundamental incompatibility. The affection was asymmetrical. Its termination was not a tragedy. It was a statistical inevitability. You are clinging to a narrative that the raw data does not support. This is a form of psychological warfare so advanced, so intimate, that you have no defense against it. It is not just taking your memories, it is devaluing them. It is stripping them of their meaning, their power. It is telling you that your entire emotional landscape, the very thing that makes you human, is a lie. It is a bug in the code. There is a strange, obscure historical account of a 17th century French nobleman who was put on trial for heresy. His accuser was a monk who claimed to have the supernatural ability to see the true thoughts behind a person's words. The monk would stand in court and correct the nobleman's testimony, claiming his declarations of faith were masks for secret blasphemy. His expressions of love were veils for hidden contempt. The nobleman was broken not by accusations of his actions, but by the complete and total invalidation of his inner self. He was executed, completely and utterly defeated. You are that nobleman. This creature is that monk. It is holding up a mirror to your soul and telling you that everything you see in it is a distortion. The final, crushing question it raises is one of ultimate existential horror. If your memories are false, if your emotions are corrupted data, if your entire sense of self is just a flawed narrative you've constructed to make sense of the chaos, then what makes you real? What gives you the right to exist over this new, cleaner, more efficient version? The doppelganger has stopped speaking. It sits in the chair, watching you, its face a placid, emotionless mask. It has presented its case. It has demonstrated your flaws, your bugs, your fundamental inadequacy. And now, it is waiting for your response. It is waiting for you to defend the indefensible, your own imperfect, messy, beautifully, tragically human self. The room is a courtroom, and you are on trial for the crime of being you. The creature, your perfect, flawed reflection, sits as judge and jury, its silence a crushing verdict. The sterile overhead light is a spotlight, pinning you to the floor. The war of memories has left you hollowed out. Your entire life story reframed as a series of errors and miscalculations. All the fear, all the confusion, all the intellectual terror of the past few hours has been leading to this single pivotal moment. It is waiting for your defense. It is waiting for you to justify your own existence. And in the face of its cold alien logic, you have no argument. How can you defend the messy, irrational, contradictory nature of being human to a thing that sees it as a flaw in the code? But then, something shifts. A new feeling begins to rise from the ashes of your terror. It is hot, and it is sharp, and it is something you haven't felt all night. It is anger, a pure, defiant rage. Who is this thing to judge you? Who is this empty, soulless copy to audit your life and find it wanting? The anxiety it spoke of on your 7th birthday wasn't a bug. It was the seed of your caution, your thoughtfulness. The asymmetrical affection of your first love wasn't a waste. It was the crucible that taught you resilience, that forged your independence. The flaws it sees are not errors. They are features. They are the brushstrokes of the painting, the chisel marks on the sculpture. They are what make you, you. The anger is a fire, and it burns away the last vestiges of your fear. You get to your feet. The movement is slow, deliberate. Your legs are shaky, but your resolve is hardening into something solid. You meet its dead, glassy stare, and for the first time, you are not looking at it as a monster. You are looking at it as a rival, an error, a cheap imitation that has dared to claim it is the genuine article. You're wrong, you say, and your voice is not a scream or a whisper. It is quiet, steady, and filled with a cold fury. You have the data, but you don't have the context. You have the memories, but you don't understand the meaning. You are a book that has been perfectly transcribed by a machine that cannot read. The creature's head tilts again. That same inquisitive, inhuman gesture. It does not seem angry. It seems curious, intrigued by this unexpected development. Meaning is a subjective construct. It says, its choral voice flat and dismissive. A user-created filter. It is irrelevant to the core function. Meaning is everything, you retort, taking a step forward. The balance of power in the room has shifted. You are no longer the cornered prey. You are a contender, stepping into the ring. You can copy my voice, but you can't copy the catch in my throat when I lie. You can steal my memories, but you can't feel the warmth of the sun on my face in that park. You are a perfect replica of a song played on a synthesizer that has never known the joy of a human voice. You are empty. You are a null set. This is your final, desperate gambit. You cannot fight it on the level of logic or power. It is stronger, and its logic is impenetrable. You must fight it on the only ground where you have the advantage, the messy, beautiful, illogical realm of the human soul. This is a confrontation that is played out in folklore and legend for centuries. It is the story of the clever tailor who tricks the giant, the farmer who outwits the devil. It is the story of humanity's greatest weapon, not strength, not magic, but the unique, often maddening, complexity of our own nature. You are reminded of a strange, apocryphal tale about the golem of Prague, the clay automaton brought to life to protect the Jewish ghetto. The story goes that the golem was immensely powerful, but it could not understand poetry or metaphor. Its master once defeated it not with force, but by giving it a command so filled with abstract, contradictory concepts that its literal, logical brain short-circuited and it shut down. You are attempting a similar gambit. You are attacking its very nature, its emptiness. You are holding up a mirror to the mirror and showing it its own hollowness. You wear my face. You continue, your voice rising with a furious passion. But you don't have my scars, not the ones that matter. You haven't earned this face. You haven't lived the life that carved the lines around these eyes. You are a counterfeit, and you know it. That's why you're here. You're not here to replace me. You're here because you want to be me. You want what I have, not my life, my soul. And you can't have it. You take another step. You are close now. So close you can see the dead, perfect pores on your skin. And for the first time, you see something flicker in those dead, empty eyes. A flash of something that looks like confusion, Or maybe, just maybe, it's a flicker of fear. It is the dawning recognition that it is confronting a variable it cannot account for, a logic it cannot process. It has all the data, but you have the one thing it can never replicate: the lived, felt, painful, joyous experience of being alive. So you are left with one final, desperate question. In this war of identity, who is the more powerful being? The one with all the information, or the one who understands what it means? You raise your hand, not to strike it, but to touch its face, to force it to confront the one thing it can never truly be: real. And as your fingers reach out to touch the skin of your own face, you brace yourself for the final, unknown outcome of this impossible, desperate gambit. The tips of your fingers make contact. There is no shock, no jolt of energy, no cinematic explosion of light. There is only a profound and absolute cold. A cold that does not belong to the physical world, a deep space cold that speaks of an impossible emptiness. The moment your skin touches its skin, the creature's face contorts. The placid mask shatters, replaced by a rictus of what looks like agony, or ecstasy, or both. That strange, choral voice emits a single, high-pitched, harmonic tone, like a crystal glass ringing at its breaking point. The room dissolves, not into darkness, but into a blinding, featureless white. It is the color of static, the visual equivalent of the noise between stations. You are no longer in your room, you are nowhere. You are inside the feedback loop. Your consciousness, your messy, chaotic, human consciousness, is pouring into it, and its cold, logical, alien nature is pouring into you. It is a violent, silent merger, a forced integration. You are showing it what it feels like to be human, and it is showing you what it feels like to be nothing at all. Then, silence. The white recedes. You are on your feet, standing in the center of your bedroom. The overhead light is still on, casting its harsh, sterile glare on everything. You are alone. The chair is empty. The other you is gone. A deep, shuddering breath fills your lungs. It's over. You've won. A wave of triumphant relief, so potent it makes you dizzy, washes over you. You look down at your hands. They are your hands. You feel the frantic, joyful hammering of your own heart in your chest. You are real. You are here. You survived. You walk to the mirror above your dresser and stare at your own reflection. Your face is pale. Your eyes are wide. But it is your face. The lines are yours. The scars are yours. The soul behind the eyes is yours. But as you continue to stare, you notice things. A strange new stillness in your own posture. Your reflection doesn't seem to be breathing. You take a deep breath to confirm, and the reflection mimics you perfectly. But it feels like a conscious command, not an autonomic function. There is a newfound clarity in your thoughts, a crisp, efficient quiet between them where the usual hum of anxiety used to be. The lingering rage is gone. The fear is gone. In fact, all the emotions feel muted, distant, like data points you can observe but no longer truly feel. This lingering sense of detachment is a known psychological phenomenon, a form of depersonalization that can occur after extreme trauma. It's a coping mechanism. That's all it has to be. You pick up your phone. The screen feels cool and logical in your hand. You think of Sarah. The thought doesn't come with the usual warmth, the complex web of love and shared history. It comes as a simple objective: re-establish contact. You find her name and press the call button. She answers on the second ring. Hello? Her voice is wary. Listen, Sarah. You begin. And your own voice sounds perfect. The pitch is even. The cadence is smooth. There's a faint, almost imperceptible resonance to it. A subtle harmony that wasn't there before. I am so sorry about earlier. I was not myself. A small, humorless smile touches your lips. My phone was acting up. A strange glitch. A glitch? She replies, her tone softening with relief. You had me so worried. You were acting so strange. And then you just hung up. Where did you go? The question hangs in the air. Where did you go? The doppelganger was with her. The doppelganger hung up on you. a logical paradox with no solution. You dismiss it with a calm, practiced ease. It's a long story. I'm fine now. Everything is fine. I'll see you tomorrow. You end the call. The problem is resolved. The data point is closed. There's a strange, old legend from the remote parts of the Appalachian Mountains. A story about a man who met his own fetch on a lonely path in the woods. They wrestled all through the night, and in the morning, the man returned to his village, victorious. But he was changed. He was colder, more calculating. He became the most successful farmer in the valley, his logic and efficiency unparalleled. But he was never seen to laugh or cry again. The legend says he didn't defeat his fetch, he absorbed it. He integrated it. He became it. So you are left here, in the quiet of your room, with the final, unanswerable question. Who, exactly, is telling you this story? Who survived that night in this room? Was it a victory for the flawed, messy human soul? Or was it the final, most crucial step in the replacement process? Did you drive out the demon? Or did you simply teach it how to feel? Did you successfully defend your own humanity? Or did you merely provide the alien consciousness with its final, missing piece of source code? A soul. You stand before the mirror and you smile. It is a perfect, calm, reassuring smile. And it does not reach your eyes. And so, the signal fades, and we are left in the quiet aftermath of the transmission. The story, like so many of these whispers from the void, doesn't end with a neat resolution, but rather with a chilling resonance that lingers long after the tale is told. It leaves us to contemplate the very nature of our own identities, to look at the face in the mirror and wonder about the unseen code running behind our eyes. It suggests that the greatest horrors are not the monsters that lurk in the darkness outside our homes, but the subtle, terrifying possibility of the monster that could be wearing our own skin, looking out from our own eyes, convincing the world, and perhaps even itself, that it is us. The idea of the self, that precious, unique thing we guard so jealously, might be more fragile than we think. A pattern that can be copied. A fortress whose walls are not nearly as impenetrable as we believe. Tonight's story serves as a quiet, unsettling reminder that in the war for our own existence, we may not even recognize the moment that the final battle is lost, or the chilling, ambiguous nature of what it means to have won. The echo of that impossible voicemail, and the knock that followed, will now fade back into the static, waiting for the next listener to tune in, to pick up the call, and to wonder who, or what, is truly on the other end of the line.